Hello, hello. Here today in the Tier 10 Japanese destroyer, the Shimakaze. We're on the map Greece and the mode is Domination. We're in pure Tier 10 matchmaking. Counting radars, looks like just Stalingrad. And we are continuing on a bit from our Torpedo Acceleration Asashio build, so I am mounting the 20-kilometer torpedoes. These are of course the stock torpedoes that you're saddled with. But normally they're kind of bad. They do 62 knots and hit for just shy of 20k, and they have a fairly long reload time at 114 seconds. However, I am running torpedo acceleration, so I brought the speed up to 67 knots to make them a little more competitive. This does, however, bring the range down to 16 kilometers, but as I've iterated before, 16 kilometers is more than enough to work with. Now this is not my preferred random battles build. For random battles I would still prefer using the 12 kilometers. The second torpedo option, not the F3s or F8s. Not the 8 cams, but the 12 cams, the mid-range torpedo option. But nevertheless, we'll see if we can make these 16 cams work. Now the problem with the 16 cams is not their damage or their range, but their detectability. They're very, very, very visible. I think you end up with a reaction time of something over 10 seconds, 7 seconds maybe even, 7 to 10 seconds, somewhere in that range, but it ends up being a very large amount of reaction time. Now I am being trailed by a Smolensk and a Smolensk, so I am going to attempt to spot out my opponents. Now they are gearing Shimakaze, so I'm matched by the Shimakaze obviously. I still do have concealment expert in this build, and concealment module. And then depending on whether or not the gearings are running legendary module, they'll either match me at 5.6, or I will beat them out and they'll be 5.9 versus my 5.6. Now RPF tells me pretty much precisely where they're going. Normally I'd be quite concerned as to where they were headed. And there does pop up a gearing, doesn't look like he's running concealment expert. Kind of checking to see where people are going. Gonna spot him out briefly for my Smolensks, who failed to land any shells it looks like, unfortunately. Now my torpedoes are loaded, but oh, spotted. We're spotted by gearing who went up onto the flank. Don't really want to get hammered by anything. Oh, Henry's gonna spot me and shoot me, and he does unfortunately reset me right as I'm about to cap. Quite the tragedy, but nothing I can do about that. Now as you can see here from the anticipatory aiming line, I'm a little too far back, but I'm gonna see if I can spook out the Yamato. Now normally this would be right on the edge of my range with the 12 km torpedoes. Speaking of 12 km, that's downward inside of 12 km, so I would prefer not to get hit. Let's see if he accelerates. Gearing has torpedoed. Just gonna temporarily halt here again. Yamato's continuing away, which may or may not increase my chances of getting the torpedo hits, but these are really just anticipatory long-range torpedoes, and they might have indeed been screened by one of the gearings as they pass by thanks to the high visibility of these torpedoes. Stalingrad seems to have stopped. A bit tragic for us, we didn't capture the, well, cap. And my options, I have several I suppose. I'm in a pretty good spot to spot out these heavy ships right now. You can see my torpedoes continuing onward. Stalingrad pops his radar. So since I'm spotted anyway, just give him a quick bot shot and glide into cover. And somehow my 20 km torps did hit something, embarrassingly enough for whoever got hit. Someone else took a hit. Looks like Yamato or Henry. Henry's really close to me, which is intimidating. But I don't really care that much. We know the Stalingrad radar is down now. My tubes are also coming back up, so I'm gonna See if I can give eyes to my teammates. 1 second. Sorry, this is a bit loud. And we do pop spot the Smolensk coming up. Stalingrad staying right there in cover. Whoa, okay. Gearing pops up. Smolensk, however, is right there, and as you can see, he chunks me quite hard initially. I'm gonna damage control now that that's been spotted, and I'm gonna duck into cover, unfortunately, because of the position of my two Smolensks. I'm not able to continue spotting. I do, however, spot out the Gearing's torpedoes. Gearing has smoked. RPF tells me not to dump all my torpedoes, based on how the Gearing is still smoking. Ooh, I hope I don't take that. Okay, good. Thank you, propulsion module. I know not to dump all my torpedoes. He should be somewhere right about here. However, since I cannot currently contest that, I guess I'll just have to do what I can to harass with gunfire. Stalingrad, not looking to come out yet, it looks like. Miss those shells. Stalingrad still sitting in a very static, very annoying position for me. Here comes that Gearing. Unable to block the cap, unfortunately. Looks like he's coming out. Gonna continue to use the Gearing's smoke against him. I know he torped earlier when I dodged those torps, so I can fire quite safely. Phew, nice 4,200 damage there, showing off the Shimakaze. HE Alpha, and Stalingrad shooting me, of course. He has armor piercing loaded, so I'll be fine. Hit him with a torpedo. Now I can just target to ping him down. Do note the Gearing is still quite close to me. Not exactly playing from a position where I'm making maximum use of my 20 kms. But what can you do, you know? One of my Smolensks was unfortunately dispatched. This is a fairly risky maneuver. So Stalingrad's on the other side. Not sure I'm gonna make this torpedo gap. He appears to be slowing down. He's dead here. Not even gonna bother firing. Smolensk, however, might have hydro. This is a pretty goofy game. Now the problem here is I need to wait till he passes this point for this tube. Because of the Stalingrad's corpse. It's not running hydro yet. So there's some hope. I'll launch my second tube. Now these are fairly visible, he probably already sees them, so we'll see what happens. In this case I am gonna fire. And he dies. It's very interesting game. So this last one should be the Henry 4. I switched to armor piercing because I wanted to see if I could do something. It's going to be fairly risky to pop out here. I'm going to see if I can recapture this cap point. Fairly goofy game with the 20 cams. So not really showing off the actual power of the 20 cams, if you can call it that. Thankfully the Henry ended up being angled quite away from us. And so as a result, we didn't pop out of our smoke and suddenly bump into a Henry 4 very close range with only 4,000 health, because that would have had some very painful consequences. I'm gonna hover in this gap, see if I can't spot out the remaining enemy here. And we do indeed spot out both the Henry and the Montana. Henry's a fairly hard target, not gonna have an opportunity to hit him as he comes up, most likely. But I can round this corner and try for the Montana. Now I have 1-2 up. Based on its current trajectory, if I just launch on the gray line, it'll send it straight into that island, so not that interested in that. There isn't any real way for me to slip any torps through, but we'll try that gap. I'm not sure how many will squeeze through, but I guess you have to try to know. He's slowing. Probably gonna hover right about there, unfortunately. Henry's at the edge of our range and kiting away, so no point even bothering for him. Pretty goofy game. You really shouldn't land this many 20 kms. So now the Yamato at 17.5 would normally be in my range, but thanks to my torpedo acceleration build, that is not the case. Have my AA off, don't want to get spotted by firing on the Montana's spotted plane. Just approaching the edge of my range now for the Yamato. Would prefer not to chase torpedo the Montana, although the 20 km shimmy is one of the few boats that can chase torp if it wants to. Now this Yamato player playing very cautiously, maybe I should have led a bit ahead. But currently he's reversing, and the game does end. Pretty boring game. Some exciting moments, I guess, up close and personal of the Smolensk and Stalingrad, but really, realistically, that shouldn't happen. So we do end up doing 81,000 damage with 5 torpedo strikes, 39 shell hits, of which most shattered. 2 kills, 1 in cap, 4 floods, 1 fire, and 2 capture ruins. Team score wise, 1800, nothing special. If we go to the detailed report, mostly battleship damage, so yeah, that Yamato embarrassingly enough took some 20 km torps. At close to max range, let's just say. Stalingrad guy pushed into 2 torps, pretty normal. Well, he pushed into 1 and then he took 1 up close later, but he was already at 2000, so he died. And Smolensk guy decided that he wanted to meet some shimmy torps, maybe not the smartest. But anyway, since we couldn't get that great of a showcase, let's just re-queue it here and see what we get. While we wait, I guess we can switch the music a little bit. Let's see what we can find. This should do nicely. Let's switch that over. Did we queue yet? Still no queue. Alright, sorry about the delay. Guess it's a quiet afternoon. Oh, we will queue eventually. Looks like into a more destroyer-heavy match. More than likely. Could be as few as 2 battleships in the match, but matchmaker's probably waiting for one. Excuse me while I sip some coffee. Come on now, matchmaker. It's not that hard. Well, that's a bit depressing. But hopefully this music isn't too disruptive in terms of volume. Ah, there we go. There's my matchmaker. Anyway, so we're on the map Haven. It's standard battle, unfortunately. But it is, again, purebred tier 10 matchmaking. This time we have to contend with 2 Moskvas. As I did mention, there's only 2 battleships in this match, very, very destroyer heavy, and a lot of Shimakazes. So this should be an exciting experience to say the least. The 20,000, or 20 kilometer torpedoes here, however, are going to be fairly awful. So we're going to be seeing a lot more gunboating than torpedoing if things go to plan. But we'll see. We spawn in a fairly aggressive position, so I'm going to spot out for my Smolensk. The advantage, of course, of using the 20 kms, which I haven't iterated, are that in competitive it lets you stay outside of the range of radar ships like the Smolensk, or sorry, not Smolensk, but Stalingrad and Moskva, and torpedo them and harass them over and over while staying well outside of torpedo range. This is, however, of course, less helpful when you're attempting to contest a cap up close and there's a bunch of gearings and Henry IVs in your face and such, but that's the premise. You get to stay outside of the range of torpedoes, or sorry, radars, and then continually lob torpedoes in the direction of what should be a fairly static radar ship in most cases. Contrast this, of course, with the more standard loadout of the 12 km Shimakaze torpedoes, where you have to enter into Stalingrad and Moskva radar range just to fire anything at all. Get pinged back. So since other Shimakaze over here is going along the border, there's no point in me accompanying him, so I will go into the center and spot that instead. This is, of course, a slightly riskier position. Normally there'd be a cap here, and so this would be the center of a lot of fighting. So that's quite alright. I'm more than happy to facilitate. And I do get spotted out. Hoping to disengage here, so even though my guns are pointed, I'm gonna avoid firing. And I disengage at the tax of 2k, and hopefully my Smolensk and other ships can tax him back. Now I am inside Moskva radar range, so I do have to be careful. He will probably go back towards this Moskva, so I'm gonna pre-torp this position. Oh, and I'm also gonna beach myself for not paying attention, so hopefully I don't get radared, because this would be very, very dangerous. Moskva taking some intense fire from some inappropriate angling. He's angling to us here, so I assume Moskva or Conqueror over there on that side ended up chunking him out as he gave broadside at this angle. Something you always have to be careful about in the Moskva. Looks like he's going to turn in away from my torpedoes, but that's quite alright. They should be spotted by now thanks to their high detectability range. Doesn't look like I'm going to land any, unfortunately. I kind of just blindly lobbed them in this direction. Never mind, he took one. But yeah. That's a flood. Now I could open fire and get a follow-up fire, but he's not really that low, and I really don't want to expose myself unless absolutely necessary. I would prefer my allies finish the job for me, and my torpedoes will continue sailing across. Come on, guys. You can do this. Alright, you know, I'm pretty shielded. He popped Kuznetsov. You saw that flare there. I'm pretty shielded from most of his allies here, so I'm going to start contributing some damage. I have to hit superstructure, of course. Moskva covered in 50mm plates, and I do score an extra bit of damage at the cost of taking one secondary hit. Whatever. That's fine. So Shimakaze up here, found a Shimakaze, and again I'm shadowing a Shimakaze with my RPF. No, what probably is a Shimakaze. It's hard to say for sure at this junction. And my Smolensk crew sat still. Torpedoes I guess torpedoed by the Shimakaze. Oh yay. And we make contact again with that Shimakaze initially. Not sure how he's spotted, but I am gonna go towards him. I have Kremlin behind me. I'm gonna bring my guns to bear. I have my smoke at the ready. Don't think I'm gonna be torping anything in particular, so he's reversing currently. He's smoking, huh? It's interesting. I'll give him 2 tubes, I guess. And then I'm gonna charge into the smoke and push him out. Now there's a glut of enemies over here, but Shimakaze should be fairly easy pickings. There's a Smolensk over there which is reversing. I expect him to reverse just past that rock, so I'm gonna go all the way in before I start engaging. He must have been spotted by Moscow radar, I wasn't paying attention. He's stopping now, but he should probably stop at a position where he can fire on something. He currently doesn't have anything to fire on. Shimakaze is right there. Let's switch back to gun. Now I'm not going to have very good gun angles because I can't twist this way thanks to that piece of cover. He does however take a torpedo, which tells me basically where he is, and he ends up taking all of them and dying. So that's scratch 1. Having scratched out that Shimakaze, I'm going to continue to shadow the Smolensk and try and get my allies to fire on him. Oh, my allied Shimakaze did send torpedoes, so let's not take those. Bit of frame stutter from them gliding across the screen, which is unfortunate, one of the more buggy features that some people do have, myself included. And okay, my allied Shimakaze is also using the 20 kms, which is interesting. Not a spec I'd normally recommend people use. I'm gonna continue to shadow the Smolensk. All their raiders are down here. Maybe we end up cheesing this win, but remember this is Shimakaze to the north. Don't know why my Kremlin and Moscow aren't shooting him. He's definitely in range of the Kremlin and probably in range of the Moscow. Bunch of ships here. So these are kind of for the Smolensk and multi-purpose torpedoes. Smolensk cover does smoke up, which makes me regret launching my torpedoes so early. And I do get a nice look at a fairly static Yamato, for which these 20 km torpedoes would be perfect for rooting out. But it is what it is. Gonna scoot behind this island over here, actually, for now, in order to avoid being fired upon if I get spotted. I think. Although oh shit. So I do end up getting spotted. Shimakaze guy is fire. So I'm gonna fire back, but that does mean I have to smoke immediately. And this is because, of course, I have gun bloom and there's a Smolensk beside me. He just torped me immediately. I'm waiting for my allied Moscow radar. Oh, I underlead. He was reversing, so I'm gonna miss those shells. See if I get to fire again with the 7-second reload. And okay, I don't even get to land anything because I'm bad. I got myself spotted out. My torpedoes do force the Zhao away, however, which is good. I'm going to turn my guns onto the Shimakaze that's over there. As you can see, the multitude of Shimakazes in this game is kind of causing some latency, or frame stutter. He's a fair distance away, so I do have to give quite a bit of lead. What else is in gun range while I have this smoke screen set up? Smolensk is perfect. Shattering a lot of my shells. unfortunately. I honestly don't really even know what I'm lobbing shells at, but I'm just shooting at things that are in range currently. The Zao is going to be annoying, so let's keep him from coming too far up. "13 seconds on my smoke, so that's 2 more salvos. And now we cease fire. Now note there's still a Shimakaze nearby, and my team has lost quite a bit, but not much else we can do here. How are these 20 kms doing? If that Hindenburg keeps reversing like a moron, he is going to, well, get killed. It should be spotted by now by the Smolensk, but we'll see if he responds. He's blind firing my last known position. That is annoying. Also intelligent, but annoying. Looks like he'll have reversed out enough to dodge them all by now, although he might take that one, I'm not sure. Not quite. Oh, but he did reverse into that last one, amusingly enough. And what about the Zao Torpedoes? The Zao dodged his set. Gonna continue to try and win through cheese. Radar. Wasn't watching the Moskva. I'm gonna get reset. Smolensk is definitely watching me. Time to move. Oh, there's a Shimakaze here as well, which is interesting. I do sink that Shimakaze though. On the move, smoking. Gonna continue moving. So that's one Moskva radar. Trying to cling on. Now the Moskva is the closest threat now. Only have 1 tube for him, however, so as we come back up to speed, we're going to have to be very careful about what we do with him. He's gonna block the cap if I'm not careful, as is the Zao. Looking for my Moskva. Fire that tube briefly, but now I'm gonna get forced to leave by the close proximity. Don't want to get hydroed by the Zao or anything like that. They're blind firing into the smoke anyway. I don't have any tubes coming up thanks to the long reload. You can see some of the weaknesses in this battleship fight game. These cruisers are staying fairly mobile, so as a result, I'm being forced from the cap, and the radars do end up pushing me out. You can see there from the Moskva turning that there is a fairly long reaction time to allow these ships time to turn away. So probably also pushing with hydroacoustic, which doesn't help. This is probably also a Smolensk about here, behind my smokescreen. But my RPF is currently the Zao. I've got a tube coming up in 2 km, or 2 seconds, but I'm not sure I'm going to get the chance to use it. Probably going to end up losing this match, but that's fine. I do get to show off the pros and cons, mainly cons of using the 20 kms. I do want to eliminate the Zao if possible. He should turn back in for the cap is my anticipation, but you never know, some people love chasing. I'm probably getting flamed by my teammates. And indeed, they are flaming my torpedo choice. But that's fine. See that the Zao is slowly gaining on me, thanks to my maneuvering. right on the cusp of detection right here, so I'm gonna get fired up on once. Probably won't take 9,000 damage though, so we'll continue to speed away as he turns out to dodge the torpedoes. And that should buy me enough time to make the vertical spread turn here. Not the most exciting, of course, but we do have no choice but to run. Gonna pop my engine boost consumable here. Gain a little bit of distance and give us some wiggle room when engaging with the Zhao over here. As we gain speed, we pull away. He's trying to force us into the corner. Let's see how far he turns. He knows basically where we have to run. Alright, looks like I overled. Should have just gray lined him. There's no way he can catch me, but he can't force me out of the cap. So I take this Zhao and anyone else chasing me out of the game, I guess. But in spite of that, my teammates are still having a hard time dealing with these guys over here, and as a result I do end up dying. Gonna need a pretty thick spread to get any damage at all onto him, I'd imagine. So I'm gonna wait for both tubes, even though one tube loaded faster. He has popped a spotter plane, but planes don't spot torpedoes anymore, so those aren't gonna really help him. Let's see how he turns. And the Zhao has fairly good rudder shift, so he does end up dodging out. We do buy ourselves a bit more distance, however. And maybe we can squeeze ourselves back towards the map. Pretty lame ending. 3 minutes left means we can't even contest the cap anymore, so this game's officially over. Unless we somehow kill all of them. Just some unfortunate circumstances here, really. I do imagine we'll probably score at least 1200 base experience. We did kill a shimmy, pretty much from full to everything. Reloading a tube in 5 seconds, we'll get 2 more launches. Really no real point in launching at him, I'm kind of just telling him where we are. That's alright. My Moskva drops, so now it's just us. And now I'm just running because I don't really want to contest him. The Zhao performing its age-old function as a GD hunter. He does turn in to follow because he realizes we're probably heading for the border, or maybe he's running his hydroacoustic, he saw where they came from, and as a result he can estimate where I'm going and which direction I'm heading. Is there any point in really launching at him? Not really, but I don't have too many other courses of action currently, so do have to watch my angles, don't want to beach this close to him. Let's try something a little less linear. Now he is running RPF as well, which is also helpful in tracking us, obviously. That's probably actually why he was able to track us so accurately. Probably should have mentioned that one, but you know, I am occasionally stupid. Do have to watch my range on the Moskva. He might radar just to, you know, radar. So I'm gonna use the curvature of this island to just swing north, away from the Moskva. I can't contest him anyway, and this should shield me from a Zhao. Now what I can actually do, I guess, is actually try to ambush him in the last minute. I have a tube coming up in 14 seconds. Whether he figures out that I'm here or not is another question entirely. I do get radared. So unfortunately he will know. Well, that's fine, he's probably still coming toward me. And indeed he is. So let's see what you got for me. And we should trade at this range. And we do get another kill at the very least, at the very end of the game. Spoiled, of course, a little bit by the radar from the Moskva, but we did what we could. But here, anyway, in this game where we ran away from a hunter, our team seems to have had a bit of a struggle actually doing anything. But that's besides the point. Here in this game with very few battleships, and battleships that stayed kind of far away from us, you can see how the 20 km Shimakaze torpedoes do struggle quite a bit to have a sufficient impact if the enemy doesn't really play into you, thanks to the high detectability range. Anyhow, that will conclude the game. We did suffer, unfortunately, a defeat, of course, but as I said, even in the matchmaking waiting period, this was always going to be a fairly difficult game with this loadout. So we do end up getting 97,000 damage, over 30 shell hits, 7 torpedo strikes, 3 kills, 1 incapacitation, 4 floods, and 11 spawning ribbons. Team score wise, we do find our way to the top of the scoreboard, on our losing team of course, at 1500, so not bad at all. 1500 means we would have been about 2200 if we were winning, so we do end up above Smolensk if we were to have won. Smolensk obviously did show off a bit of skill, some brain cells trying to blind fire me and such when I was in the cap, but ultimately we were defeated by the Moskva's radar pushing us out of the cap. Damage wise, well, note that none of this is on battleships this time. Did not really get to target my intended target of battleships and other static targets with my 20 kms. In this game we did struggle somewhat, but it's more intelligent gameplay than the specific loadout of your ship that matters, as long as some parts of my ship are functional, and even with the 20 km spec, the Shimakaze is more than capable of inflicting damage. Just going to switch back over to the 12 kms, and as you can see with the torpedo acceleration loadout, these do 72 knots and have 9.6 kilometers of range, so you could experiment with this as well if you wanted to, but that's probably for another video. Anyhow, just to show off quickly my torpedo acceleration spec, we got preventive maintenance, last stand, survivability expert, torpedo armaments expertise, RPF concealment expert, and I'm sacrificing, of course, adrenaline rush that you would see in a standard build for the torpedo acceleration on this Shimakaze captain. Anyhow, that was a bit of a showcase of the 20 km Shimakaze in random, so as you can see it's quite limited by the matchmaker, so more of a competitive loadout than anything else, but you can make it work if you want to. So I hope you enjoyed. Cheers.